You know that person? The one who lost a significant amount of weight years ago and somehow still looks the same today. Not because they're doing some impossible diet, not because they have special genetic luck, just because somehow the weight stays off. Yeah, that pattern isn't about willpower. It isn't about genetics. It isn't even about loving exercise or hating food. There is now decades of research on more than 10,000 of these people that reveals exactly what they do. And the answer is much more profound and much more replicable than anyone has ever told you. In a moment, I'll show you why the people who keep the weight off don't see themselves as people who lost weight. They see themselves as completely different humans. Why a landmark psychology study at UCLA found that the strategy that gets the weight off is almost never the strategy that keeps it off. And why a research project that has tracked thousands of long-term maintainers found that they all do one specific thing every single week, and almost no one outside that group ever does. By the end of this video, you'll understand more about why some people keep the weight off forever than 90% of trainers and doctors who design weight loss programs. Quick question before we dive in. Do you know someone personally who lost a lot of weight and kept it off for over 5 years? Or have you done it yourself? Tell me in the comments. They're not special. They're not genetic outliers. What they have is a small set of patterns that anyone, including you, can learn. The first pattern is the most important one. The person they used to be had to die. I don't mean that metaphorically. The successful maintainer understands something almost everyone else misses. Your body is the long-term output of who you are. The way you eat, the way you move, the way you think about food when no one's watching. These patterns produce a result with mathematical certainty. So if you go back to the patterns of your old self, your body eventually will return to that old self too. You can't have the habits of a heavy person and expect to live as a lean one. The math doesn't allow it. The maintainers got this. They stopped seeing themselves as people on a diet. That identity assumes there's a diet, and then there's normal life. The diet ends, normal life resumes. And normal life is what made them heavy in the first place. Instead, they decided that normal life had to change, permanently. The version of them that ate that way, that moved that way, that thought about food that way, that version doesn't continue. The new version inherits the body, but everything else is different. This is the deepest shift in long-term weight maintenance, and it's the one almost nobody talks about because it sounds like loss. But the only way to stop being the person who gains weight back is to stop being that person, on the inside. Research from the National Weight Control Registry, founded by Dr. Rena Wing at Brown University and Dr. James Hill at the University of Colorado, has tracked more than 10,000 maintainers for decades. And one of the most consistent findings is that successful maintainers describe themselves in fundamentally different ways than they did before. They don't say, "I'm trying to be healthy." They say, "I'm someone who lives this way." Quick pause here. If this is the first time you've heard weight maintenance explained this way, do 2 things real quick. Hit the like button. It's the only signal YouTube uses to show this video to other people who need to hear it. And subscribe to the channel, because this is part of an ongoing series breaking down the psychology and biology behind eating and behavior change. You don't want to miss the next ones. Now, let's keep going. The second pattern is more practical. They learn to be selective with their indulgences, not eliminate them. Every week, you have a finite number of indulgence tokens you can spend without losing your results. Maintainers understand this intuitively. Most people don't. The problem isn't that you eat the cake at your sister's birthday. The problem is that you also ate the cookies someone brought into the office on Tuesday, the ones you didn't even know you wanted until you saw them. You ate the candy in the receptionist's bowl because it was there. You had dessert after Wednesday's dinner just out of habit. By the time the weekend arrives, you've already spent every token on food you didn't even really want. Maintainers do the opposite. They save the tokens. They pass on the office cookies. They walk past the candy bowl. Not because they're stronger, because those moments are not worth the cost. And when the family dinner on Saturday comes, they eat the cake without guilt, because the cake was the plan all along. This is where the famous National Weight Control Registry data comes in. 75% of successful maintainers weigh themselves at least once a week, not to judge themselves, to keep score. They use the scale the way a driver glances at the speedometer. If the number drifts up by 3 pounds, they make small adjustments that week. They catch drift while it's still tiny, because by the time it's visible in clothes, it's already 15 pounds. The third pattern directly contradicts what most weight loss programs sell. The diet that gets the weight off is not the diet that keeps it off. In 2007, Dr. Tracy Mann and her team at UCLA published a landmark review in the journal American Psychologist. They examined decades of weight loss studies and found something brutal. Most restrictive diets work in the short term, almost none work in the long term. The majority of dieters regain the weight, and many end up heavier than they started. But the maintainers figured something out. The restriction phase is real. It's a tool you use to lose weight, but it is not a lifestyle. If you try to live in a restrictive diet forever, your biology will fight back. Hunger will rise, willpower will run out, and eventually, you will eat. Usually all at once, usually in shame, usually starting the entire cycle over again. Maintainers understand that excessive hunger is the end of dietary control, so they don't live in hunger. They build a maintenance way of eating that meets their needs. Enough protein, enough fiber, enough food. They eat to feel satisfied, not deprived. The diet that got them there is over. The diet that keeps them there is different, and it's the one they will eat for the rest of their lives. So if you want to be one of these people, here's what to actually do. First, stop thinking of this as a temporary project. Ask yourself, how does the version of me that lives in the body I want eat on a regular Tuesday? Start practicing that person now. Second, audit your indulgences. Most of the food that ruins your results isn't food you wanted. It's food that was just there. Cut the unconscious indulgences. Save the tokens for the moments that actually matter. Third, design your forever eating around enough protein, enough fiber, and enough food that you do not live in hunger. Because hunger is what breaks every plan, always. The people who keep the weight off aren't superhuman. They didn't try harder than you. They just stopped trying to come back from a diet and started becoming someone who didn't need to. And that person, that version of you that doesn't have to start over every Monday, is available. You don't have to be born into it. You just have to choose it. And then practice it every day until it stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling like who you are. Tell me in the comments, which of the three is the hardest for you? Letting the old version of yourself go, being selective with your indulgences, or finding a way of eating that doesn't leave you hungry? I read every single comment. See you in the next one.